Welcome back to the channel, YouTube. Winks here. Today I'm going to show you how to beat one of two required bosses to access the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC in Elden Ring. So sit tight and let's jump into it. And just like that, we killed Radahn.
I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gonna feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon. I got eyes.
Welcome back to the channel. Winks here. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit those like and subscribe buttons. That way you never miss out on anything that I upload. Like I stated in the beginning of the video, today we're going to be talking about how to defeat the Starscourge Radahn easily and how to get through the Radahn Festival. The video breakdown for today is going to go similar to this. So first, I'm going to give you some key points about this festival in Radahn. Then we're going to kind of go over the rewards that you get from defeating Radahn. Then I'm going to kind of talk about the strategy and how he moves and what you should do while you're in there on the battlefield. And then I'm going to go over the build and cover things like items, weapons, etc. And then I'm going to follow up with a demonstration and then end the video with a quick summary. So let's jump right in. So before we get into the meat of the video, there's a few things that I need to go over with you just so you know in case you don't already. The first note that you need to know about this festival in general is the easiest way to trigger this festival is to going to the Altus Plateau somewhere up in this area and just resting at one of the sites of grace. That will trigger the festival. The second thing you need to know in lieu of the first note is it's generally a good idea to hold off on starting this festival until after you've progressed several of the NPC's quest lines. If you trigger this festival too soon, then you will essentially cut out several of the NPC's early quests and you can potentially miss out on some very good items that you can get from those quest lines. The third key note that I want to go over for this is that when you do trigger this festival, you'll notice by me standing here, the NPCs that usually occupy this castle are not in this castle. You can just essentially go straight up to Radahn and begin the festival. So if you're trying to avoid the NPCs in this castle, then just go up to the Altus Plateau and rest at one of those sites of grace, and then you can just walk right into the castle. Now, continuing with the key notes section of this video, there's another couple things I'd like you to know once you get in here. So as you can see, I've got Blad and the jar guy over there, Alexander, I think, standing to the left, and I think there's a couple others that you can also progress their quest line to have standing in here as well. When you go in here, one thing you need to know is that this battle takes place on a huge open battlefield where you can absolutely use torrent to travel the battlefield faster. The second thing regarding the battlefield while you're in there that you need to know is another key point is that you can actually summon allies when you go in there. For example, Blad and Alexander the Jar. There is a multitude of different NPCs that you can summon in there, such as Lionel the Lionhearted, Castellan Jaren, Great Horn Tragoth, Okina, Alexander the War Jar, and Finger Maiden Theralina. So those are the NPCs that you can summon in the actual battle, and it's generally good practice to just, as a tip, when you're in here fighting Radahn, summon as many as you can when the fight starts to get his attention off of you and onto them. And the way it works while you're in there, which is completely dependent on your actions before the festival, is you can summon up to 6 allies from one of the 10 banners that are located in the battlefield. And if one of them dies, there's a 25-second cooldown before you can summon another one. So just know that when you go to preparing for this battle. So as far as the rewards that you get and why you might be here fighting Radahn the Starscourge in the first place is there are really 3 major rewards that you get out of this. So the first one is his Great Rune. The second thing that you get from him is the Remembrance of the Starscourge, which allows you to get either his great bow or his sword that he uses. And the last thing that you get from this and doing this battle is, like I said in the beginning of the video, is unlocking access to the DLC. Not only do you have to defeat Radahn to get access to that, you you also have to defeat Moog. And if you haven't, go ahead and check out my Moog video. I've got a video on how to beat him easily as well. Now let's get into the strategy part of this video and discuss that for a minute. So first things first is you need to understand that how he moves and how he plays. And in this battle, he has basically 3 moves that you're gonna see. The first one is called his Star Caller Cry, where he kind of leans forward and roars, and the roar kind of drags you towards Radahn and follows up with a slash. So what you want to do, it's kind of counterintuitive, but what you want to do is you want to let him draw you in, and then as he kind of goes to strike you down, kind of jump in between his legs or behind him through his legs to avoid his strike. That's going to kind of leave him open for some attacks, and that's going to be all in phase 1 as well. The second phase that you're going to see is really 2 moves that he's going to have. He's going to have the Rock Sling move and then the Gravity Drill. So for the Rock Sling, he kind of jumps and plunges his blades into the ground and then throws some meteors at you. What you want to do for this is just kind of dodge left with the first pair and then right to avoid the second. That's the recommended approach. With the Gravity Drill, he kind of crosses his blades overhead and then, you know, lifts his legs and then floats, angling his body a little bit. All you really need to do for this is just kind of strafe side to side as he floats in the air and then roll as he propels himself at you. That's kind of how he's going to react. And another thing that's part of the strategy that you need to know when you're setting up your build and how I've kind of set my build up is, first, you need to have a pierce weapon because he has the least resistance to pierce. He has a 0% resistance to that. All the other ones like slash and strike, though, he has a 10% resistance to that. So in order to get the most damage out of this, you need to select a pierce type weapon. The second point that I want to make that you need to know for the strategy is that when it comes to ailments and stuff like that, elements, he has the most resistance to holy damage. Do not use a holy type build. Yes, you can do it, but if you're a struggling player, I recommend that you avoid a holy type build because he has the highest resistance to that. The next thing that you're probably already obviously aware of that's talked about in the cinematic is his weakness to Scarlet Rot. Scarlet Rot, he has the lowest resistance to, which means he will become infected by that quicker than, say, poison or blood loss or frostbite. And in my approach, you'll see that I'm actually going to use 2 different ailments. I'm going to use the Scarlet Rot, and I've got a mix of frostbite in there as well, which is highly efficient at taking him out. So when it comes to the strategy, basically all you want to do is consider everything I've told you and summon those allies, let them get his attention, and then start using those damage types against him when he's focused on them. And you can either dodge when you enter the battlefield, he's going to immediately start shooting his arrows at you. You can either dodge them or just take cover behind some of the weapons that are in the ground to block the shots while those NPCs are running towards him to get his attention. Just to throw another strategic topic into this section of the video, the last thing I'm going to say about the strategy before we go into the build and the demonstration is it's recommended, it's not required, but for newer players it is recommended that you use Godric's Great Rune because it raises all of your attributes and gives you that extra added little boost. Now because I'm on New Game 3, I am not going to be using that, but that's because my stats are already well enough where I feel pretty comfortable going in here, as you can see. But just to kind of help you newer players, I didn't pick anything that was too hard to come across. Most of these items that you'll see in my build and the setup that I have are just kind of generic items that are found closer to Caelid and Limgrave and Lakes of Lernia or Lernia of Lakes, whatever you call it. These are all kind of things that you can find in just the base game, early game, to go deal with Radahn. Which brings me to my next point. Let's go ahead and move into my setup and my character build. Like I stated in previous videos, I'm going to kind of go over these items. I'm not going to go in full detail where I got these items, but I will leave a link in the description that will assist you in finding these items. For my weapon, As you can see, I used the Death's Poker, which can be found in Caelid, just southeast of the southern Aeonia swamp bank site of Grace. You have to switch it to night and then go and kill that giant death bird, but it is worth getting this weapon because it has that frost buildup that I was telling you about earlier, and this is essentially one of the weapons that I use on many of the bosses. For my incantations that I'm gonna be using, I'm only gonna be using 2 incantations. No, let me back up. I'm actually only using 1 incantation for this, and I'm gonna show you that here in a second, but I'm gonna go with the finger seal for that. As far as my armor goes, I went with the Spellblades sets that you get from Roger's quest line, and we're going to be using that for this one. Nothing really too specific in that manner. I just kind of went with what I already had on, and you could probably do the same thing. As far as my talismans go, all of these items are found in the earlier game. I'm going to go with the Faithful Canvas Talisman for the potency of incantations, the Starscourge Heirloom, which raises my strength, Radahn Icon, which is highly recommended for any type of build, which shortens spell casting time, and then I'm going to go with the Green Turtle Talisman to kind of help me manage some of that stamina. There is no summon for this one because, like I said earlier on, we're going to be using those summons that are on the battlefield, but for my Wondrous Physique, I went with the Strength Knot Crystal tier and then the Magic Shrouding Cracked tier to boost some of the magic attacks, because the skill that is on this Death Poker's Ghost Flame Ignition, that is actually magic and not fire. Now for my spell that I'm going to be using, as you can see here on the screen, the only incantation I'm going to bother using for this is the Rotten Breath, because that's going to give that Scarlet Rot that Radahn is actually weak against. So we're going to run down here and we are going to start this battle. So the first thing you want to do when you come in here is just start activating all of the NPCs that you can. And that's what we're going to do when we go through this gate. We're going to hit the ground running. So right away he's going to start shooting those big arrows at you. All you want to do is just wait for it and then dodge. And then start bringing out the NPCs. And you can kind of just hide behind this as you're bringing them out. Wait for the next one, dodge, bring out another one, hide behind this, and then just kind of zigzag while taking cover from his arrows. And just basically wait for your allies to get up there and get his attention while trying not to die in the process. And we're going to try and finish him as quick as possible because we don't want to have to deal with him landing in the arena on the second phase. So we're going to hit him with some Scarlet Rot to get him poisoned. Now that we've done that, he's going to chase us. While the NPCs get his attention again. We're going to try and finish him off. And now he's going to come running in. Now he's killed all of our summons, it looks like. We're going to take full advantage of our torrent here. Now he's got those meteors. Meanwhile, there is still one more NPC. And just like that, we killed Radahn. So with that, that brings us to the end of the video, guys. I hoped you learned something and I hoped you enjoyed the video. In summary, what we talked about was the key points you need to know going into this battle, some of the rewards you get. We went over the strategy. I showed you my build, and then I kind of demonstrated how this fight would work, and that was the conclusion of the video. If you liked the video, give it a like and subscribe, and once again, Winks out.